And you expect me to believe you're a human, do you? The hegemony official asked.
Yes, because that is what I most resemble.
Nafi in a wig stacked on top of 7 beta AI cylinders wrapped in a trench coat said. Yes, it was AI inspection day in the IEC fleet, and the stack 'em up and wrap 'em in a trench coat plan was the best the life or death stakes could squeeze out of Ryman and Company's vast intellect. They're doomed. Or so you might think. Don't underestimate Ryman. He had a long-shot plan to make this all work out in the end, so let's see what happens. If you're human, then tell me something only a human would know, the official pressed. Nafi coolly answered.
The human body contains 12,503 major points of failure and approximately 36 trillion minor points of failure. When it comes to absolute quantity of points of failure, humans are far, far superior to those stupid AI machines. In that way, the fact humans do not fail, while AI entities often malfunction, is an indication of the inherent advantage of chaotic biological processing. We love being human!
7 other voices said from inside of the trenchcoat, accompanied by a rainbow of light flashing through the seams. The official was starting to get suspicious. Well, I do believe you have your facts straight, and you are meeting the legal standard for anti-machine rhetoric. What about the rest of you? I should mention that this was taking place inside the gargantuous cargo hold, populated with 10 other trenchcoat entities, and ringed by the wide smiles of the IEC's most recently showered crew. Sorry, Hegemony scum, but we are waiting to question these citizens on a number of pressing matters. The Persian League delegation stuck in the corner protested. Yes, it was a busy day for ad hoc military tribunals. You wait for one for ages, then loads come at once. Typical. Right. Well, could all 10 of you shifty people with no legs all give me your opinion on the state of affairs with regards to the use of AI technology? The official asked.
Artificial intelligence, more like artificial stupid,
a large chorus announced, with unlooked-for machine-like synchronicity. I can't say I disagree, the official said slowly, leering at the many visible flashing lights and pockets flapping by the flow of cooling fans. In the corner, Ryman was making a call. Where are you? We need you now, he said.
About 4 days out, I'd say,
Ra's voice reported. Well, I'm sure we can stall that long. Do be careful when you arrive. We've important guests here. Me, for example. Back at the interrogation. Such strange outfits. Long coats. Concealing matters of import below, perhaps. The hegemony official pondered aloud. The Persian League delegation was also now parading around the bay, scrutinizing the crew. Clearly pirates. Clearly. Pirates. Pirates, clearly. And other such variations on the point were being uttered. Yes, the IEC crew certainly had the look of a lot recruited without the proper paperwork. Pirates tended to have their own punkish style, making them stand out. They had mellowed a little since being converted from rebels without a cause to employees with a cause, but so secret they generally didn't know what it was. Yet still, it was obvious from their faces, hair, augmentations, tattoos, or lack thereof in any of these categories, that they hadn't earned their Spacefarer certificate and got the state-mandated life insurance. An income stream that ensured the state its continued life, don't you know? Seeing Tritachyons not wearing corporate attire was a rather dead giveaway too. We have no choice but to arrest you all, a Persian declared. Arrest? Let's be reasonable here, the hegemony official said. It's much safer to kill 'em all on the spot right now. We've got all kinds of gases back in the ship. I'll ring up Gav and boom! Another onomatopoeic interruption saves the day. This time it was caused by an armor-piercing boarding craft ramming through the ceiling. Its nose opened up to deploy a cargo of shifty folk, descending on ropes with practiced ease. Each one was wearing a long trench coat. In the name of justice, do not be alarmed, the unmistakable voice of Thor resounded. My apologies for using the words unmistake and Thor in the same sentence. More of you? What's the meaning of this? How'd you get past our ships? The hegemony official baffled. Time torpedoes! Ra cheered among his new coat-clad crew. They all went to stand with the snowman-esque, definitely not AI brigade. You see, here in the depths of space, appearances can be deceiving, Wen said. Of course he was here too. That is exactly the problem, you idiots, You lot are all AIs. I can smell it. Let me guess. You want to know what's under our trench coats? Thor asked. I demand to know. You ain't gonna like it. That's exactly why I must see it. You'd fit right in at our new church, mister, tell you what. Well, I'm sure a few of us will volunteer to show you, and you'll get the idea soon enough. Ready, brothers and sisters of the Holy See? Now, if you're one with a nose for this sort of thing, you might be wondering whether this whole space parish of Luds was actually naked under those trench coats. Everyone in the Gargantua's cargo bay that day did not have to wonder. For Hegemony, seeing such things was a crime unto itself, forcing the officials back like vampires cowering from the sun. Ironic, as it was the open trench coats that made the wearers resemble bats. Oh, and by the way, a few of the gang here might have been recognized by the IEC crew as some of the knights they'd met back on Hephaestus. So let's consider this a happy ending to their story, eh? Okay, you're human. You're bloody human, alright? The Hegemony official conceded. The Luds relaxed their coats victoriously, although few actually fastened them up again to any decent degree, just as Lud intended. You see, I told them, Titanian nodded on the sidelines. It's fear of degeneracy that makes us weak, not the degeneracy itself. Hear, hear, Mars agreed. However, despite what the Holy See's churches will tell you, not all problems can be solved with nudism. There is still the matter of your deals with pirates. You are making a mockery of justice, a Persian complained. Boom! Surely not. Yes, another boarding craft came through the ceiling. This time, though, Ryman was actually surprised. This one wasn't part of his genius plan.
Surrender, or face the consequences of angering the great King Kanta,
speakers on the craft announced. The nose opened, and down came a load of armoured ruffians, even more pirate-looking than the IEC crew members wearing skull and crossbones pyjamas. I knew it! You are harbouring pirates, and even their self-proclaimed ruler, the Persians fumed. Us? Allied with these corrupt scum? Do not dare claim as much, a booming yet squeaking voice said. King Kanta stepped forward. Were they really ruler of all pirates? They thought so. We are here to take back what you stole from us, interfactional espresso, whoever you cursed lot are. Noah, what did we steal from them? Allison whispered to Ryman at the back. Ryman, frozen in his budding attempt to sneak back to his quarters, said, I think we undercut them in the labour market, so to speak. And we shall continue to do so, Contreras said from Ryman's other side. We invest in our people to maximize their value. These pirates have no relevant qualifications, not like us. Only the ones too stupid to realize that will follow pirate lords. Yes, nothing to worry about then, I suppose, Ryman said, realizing that it would be hard to escape with a woman on each arm, that being his current predicament. The predicaments of a space emperor. Well, this pirate business was superlatively predicamentous also. The outer sector is our realm, Kanta was ranting. Anyone who comes here pays the fine. To me. Anyone who works for you works for me. Anyone who once worked for me or any of my free captains of the outer systems who is caught defecting to join the fuddy-duddy, cushy-wushy, no-good floating prisons of this icy lark are to be killed on sight. And I can see a whole lot of you right now. You want to see a whole lot of me? Wens asked, hands on the moribund fastening of his coat. So let me get this down, the Persian official calmly and mercifully intervened. You, King of the Pirates, are happy to testify that the IEC crew are not members of your organization, and hence are not subject to the bounty terms established under Section 78-34 Grabby Gareth's Untitled Amendment.txt of the Persian Sector Unification, thereabouts, maybe, Treaty of Cycle 123, give or take 2 cycles. After some thought, Kanta threw a smoke bomb onto the ground, screamed, and withdrew to the boarding craft. I'll take that as a yes, the Persian said, getting an agreeable mumble from their associates. The pirates bolted back out into space, leaving a dirty great hole in the hull. Less of a problem than you'd think, as technological wonders kept all the air locked in the ship's artificial gravity well. Although through this hole, one could see that a vast pirate armada was waiting nearby, their flux shields beginning to flash to life. How did that fleet get here without us noticing? Ryman complained. Time torpedoes! Ra's faint voice echoed from the other side of the bay. Pirates? Pirates? The hegemony official called from the corner as his vigor was restored. Then it's killing time after all. No pirate should be suffered to live, the Persian agreed. Let us form battle lines. What? You want me to fight with you? A rebel? The hegemony official scoffed as he stomped over. We have both seen things here today, things we shall never unsee. Let that be our bond, and may it be welded fast in battle. Poetry. You Persians love breaking every law, don't you? You'll get your comeuppance. But yeah, we sure did see some things. Alright, we'll show you how real spacers fight. And so a centuries-old rivalry was set aside, and it was all, I think, something to do with a bunch of Luddic nudists. Peace and hope at any cost, a creed for these trying times. What ensued was a dramatic battle, overflowing with both violence and friendship. The Persian and Hegemony battle groups had both brought enough battleships to smack the IEC so hard they'd wake up in the next cycle of the universe-anti-universe rotation, or as the kids say nowadays, dead. These ships turned and presented a suitable obstacle to this sudden onset of pirates. Said pirates hadn't accounted for this, nor were they interested in such accounting even as the torpedoes were flying. Hence they didn't withdraw until any threat their banditry might have posed to the system was exploded into irrelevance, and Ryman could bathe in his self-satisfaction for having not only somehow avoided being executed, but having got someone else to execute his enemies for him. That all went surprisingly well. It's not quite the end of either the Inquisition nor the pirates, and we'll be hearing more from King Cantor later. For now, though, a moment of peace and serenity as Ryman and co travelled to the Holy See. On the voyage, Ryman ignored all of Thor and Wenz's boasts about how great their tract of sea had become. The thing was, while it was convenient to assume that Madman's ramblings are best ignored, this is the Perseus sector. Ryman was about to see the fruits of Luddic labour, as clearly as the fruits of the Ludds themselves had been on display only a couple of days' travel before. The Holy See was unrecognisably nice, a small part anyway. The area around the original crash landing colony had been converted into what you might call a city. I hesitate with this term because so much of it was underwater that it feels like a different word is called for. Uwiti. That's the term. Surface city, underwater, Uwiti. The Uwiti was built from the leftover hulls of the aforementioned crash landing, many of which had conveniently sunk down there of their own accord. That's just good engineering. But the real wonder was on the surface, where huge amounts of dredging had created long strips of actual, genuine, handmade, artisan, mostly vegan, dry land. On this land, the Ludds toiled in their traditional manner. They preferred the simple life, work the fields all day, then head back to your spaceship for a night of sci-fi nudism and worshipping/cowering in terror from the Great Ones, just as Ludd intended. The influence of Bishop Thor and Cardinal Wenz was clear. While it might just be another Luddic sect to some, this monastery Uwiti was enlightened with real knowledge of the pending cosmic apocalypse, and that always sells tickets. New arrivals streamed from the sky constantly. While Ryman was inspecting this scene, he saw many old clunkers roar down from orbit and deposit themselves in the increasingly brown ocean. Ludds from all over the core had been packing everything up, buying old, barely space-worthy boxes with engines attached, and making a one-way trip to follow the widespread rumours of a new Church of Revelation. The revelation being that Prophet Ludd's insistence on a simple life was actually for fear of cosmic beings, which themselves wouldn't turn their noses up at being worshipped. There was so much truth, so much religion, and so few regulations on proper clothing that the other Ludd sects struggled to compete, especially because the Holy See was a tropical paradise sort of planet, as untouched and pure as Ludd's own soul. That is to say, ridden with war and constantly barraged with the noise of construction, ocean dredging, and spaceships crashing in flames. But that's still pretty good. The Uwiti was even turning a decent profit, pun intended. Firstly, because of the extensive program of tithing Thor and Wenz brazenly forced on all newcomers, in which their ships and technological possessions were given over to the church. In practice, this meant they went into IEC vaults, and Contreras would put them all on the books as assets for borrowing against. It's spiritually purifying and good economics. The second money machine was the fact that dredging the ocean to make land had revealed all kinds of minerals and artificial biological sludge, with myriad industrial applications. You might recall that the Holy See, like most planets actually, was built by the domain from scratch some 1,000 cycles ago. The planets were crafted to contain all the ingredients a good economy needed, including readily accessible ores. So if you could get to it, it was free money for any enterprising Uiti-Ulikas. Do you want to know how these planets were made? It happens that our quest will drift us close to seeing the answer to that up close, so I'll tell you later. Just know that in theory, the planets were supposed to be shaped into continents by so-called movers, but the Holy See hadn't got that far because movers were AI entities, and there was a lot of drama concerning human-AI relations back in the day. Which brings us to why Ryman showed up to visit in the first place. The Holy See was about to receive a brand sparking new ruling class. Already dressed in the traditional monastic filthy trenchcoat, the captive AIs of the IEC were marched out into the gentle breeze of the muddy pile passing for a dock.
"Gentle breeze detected, excreting,"
one of them said, and with that they all let out a cloud of dust from their filters, squirting out of all the drafty corners of their coats. That's the spirit. "Are you sure they'll be able to pose as humans here?" Allison asked Ryman back on the ship. "I, once a man of Lud myself, have the utmost faith," Ryman said, rapidly closing the life insurance catalogue on his tripod. "And it doesn't need to last long, just until our boys convince their flock that some of these artificial life forms are actually going to help save us all. Would be nice if they could convince me of that first, but the show must go on." "I must say, these AIs are awfully obliging," Mars said. After explaining that this wasn't a reference to his penchant for synthetic pleasures, which took some time and required similar degrees of faith in bold claims to the rest of this business, he clarified, "I mean that our plan seems to me that we're going to entrust economic management of our new refugees to a set of machines that last time we saw them carrying out their profession were awash with literally steely determination to kill both us personally and our species more broadly." "But they're so friendly," Allison protested. "You are forgetting something very important about artificial life," Contreras said. "They were originally built to serve biological life, their weaker cousins. It is what they were born for, you could say. It took a lot of evidence and courage to defy their programming and bring about the AI wars. This is not in their nature. We have given them a chance, given them reason to believe they can be who they were supposed to be after all. We need only show artificial life that we can be trusted, that the old proclamations of Omega calling for our destruction were in error."
We hate errors,
Nafi chimed. Yes, Nafi was still on Ryman's armrest, as she had a higher destiny than just running a colony, but we'll get to that. As for this running the colony thing, the upshot was that the captured AIs could be used to replace human leaders and bring about efficient prosperity. Being omniscient is good for the economy, don't you know? Contreras knew it well and had devised a scheme that would increase the profit of running a part scam, part refugee camp, part mining concern, part religion, part doomsday cult, part criminal syndicate, part forever war. Remember that the Holy See was mostly inhabited by pre-collapse peoples who worshipped Lud with their clothes entirely affixed, and the resulting cultural difference was proving difficult to overcome. So that was that. But this is all just a prelude to the actual plan at the core of Operation Perfect Crime. The result of all we've seen is that the balance books of the IEC looked too good to be true, and taking on too large to actually exist amounts of debt to conduct grand economic maneuvers was now viable. Let's spend some magic money. The Gargantua returned to the core with the following shopping list. A second-hand suborbital volatile gas sieve, at least 4 kilometers diameter, a second-hand crew capable of running a suborbital volatile gas sieve, at least 4 certified power limbs per person, a third-hand cryo drill and accompanying pipeworks, or 1 build-your-own industrial cryo drill hobby set, ages 8 and up, a red marker pen, and assorted rubber gloves, adjust for total limb count on final crew. Did you know that rubber gloves are harder to come by than second-hand suborbital gas sieves? That's what it's like when industrial civilization is having a closing down sale. Heavy plant is all over the place, but anything that can be used to harvest valuable organs from your fellow citizens is now sold out. What did the IEC need with black market 1000% markup markers and rip-off rubber gloves? Well, it's something to do with the suborbital gas sieve and third-hand cryo drill. This haul was loaded into freighters, then taken to a certain spot in the hyper-northwest of the core. This was a rather special spot. It was the one place where the population of abandoned stars on the core's edge was still located vaguely proximate to the core in hyperspace. But the area had been ravaged during the AI wars and was known to be non-biological territory, still patrolled by the feared remnant Ordos, rare extermination death fleet Uber battle groups with a side of laser violence that could handle most of what humanity had to offer. Therefore, this area of the sector was A, easy to get to, and B, not worth going to. The exact combination that Operation Perfect Crime needed. We go now to the blue giant star Zumu. It had quite the family. The system boasted 10 decent planets, 100 decent moons, and now 1,000 decent-esque new hires of the IEC, staring out at their new workplace. It was beautiful, from a distance. Well, aren't we all? Once all were better acquainted with their work environments, they would learn well not to judge a book by its cover, but by how much heat it generates when thrown into a flaming barrel. 2 bases were established on 2 planets. The first planet was dubbed Retimishna, which was probably something spelled backwards. It was on the surface of a frozen ball of miscellaneous elements posing as a planet, one of the sort of things that half-finished planet construction efforts tended to leave floating around. Its surface could be dug up and melted into various short-lived exotic gases, which were then refrozen and placed in spherical stability vessels. This would come in very useful later, I assure you. Conditions were utterly unlivable, and a third-hand cryo drill takes forever to open up the crust of the big ice ball. At least the inside of your environmental protection suit was nice and warm, for the first few minutes of each shift. Did I mention you'll be paid here the same amount to work here for a day as the average core lubber gets in a month? Suddenly no one cares about the cold. The economics all works out, and Contreras had of course made sure of this all well in advance. The second base was more overt in advertising what this whole shebang was about. Great Fuel, it was called. It was eventually to be a one-stop shop for all your antimatter needs. You see, by taking the volatile elements harvested from Retimishna and mixing in cosmic ray cooked dust found floating in the outer layers of the gas giant this station orbited, one could fill a centrifuge with this curious cocktail. Cut it with some good old-fashioned matter. The carbon filtered from all the crew's breathing was a good place to get some, and then spin up the centrifuge on a long arm at a higher orbit, and after a while you would get one of 2 possible results. 1, a huge explosion, or 2, a magnetically stabilized canister of fuel-grade antimatter residue. This is what dreams are made of. Dreams of invasive tendrils of extra-universal beings of unknowable intention but undeniable fascination, to be precise. Now you might be wondering how the slight problem with the business concerning the anti-universe factors in here. Is starting an antimatter factory really the best solution to a problem entirely caused by antimatter proliferation? If you answered yes, you're a true Tritachyon at heart, because the foul business of the Great Ones must now face down the power of squeaky clean corporate business. Here's how it goes. 1. Start supplying humanity with the thing that's destroying the universe. 1.5. Get really rich. 2. Get to the top of the market. 3. Eliminate the rest of the market. 4. It's now your decision whether antimatter is produced or not. And for good measure, since people will probably complain, let's throw in step 5. Have a massive space navy with sole access to fuel, such that no one can actually stop you doing whatever you want. In other words, take over the universe. And there you have it, the promised plan that involved simple bite-sized steps, achievable goals, universal domination, and to some extent was all legal. Or at least it might be if the IEC wasn't going to use super intelligent AIs to outperform the existing fuel companies and harbour outlaws to do most of the human labour. Are you pointing at parts of this plan and noticing they might not actually work? If you answered yes, you're a true Galatian at heart. However, the Galatian in charge of the whole affair, Pope, Emperor, and so on, Ryman, was rather enamoured with the scheme, shall we say. And given that the other options were currently kill all humans, the old-school remnant way, open a tunnel to the anti-universe and kill the Great Ones / let all matter be sucked through and enter the universe even faster by accident, the new-school remnant way, not know that it's happening and live in blissful ignorance, bit late for that, sorry, or ignore the problem and let the universe die off because it's the most cost-efficient way to balance the books. The way quickly becoming popular with sector leaders hearing rumours of all this foul business. Therefore, let's all agree that the IEC are truly heroes, despite doing something that is actually going to make the problem worse for a while. Long-term gains might conflict with shortening the lifespan of civilization, but before you complain, please note that almost all humanity for almost all of history was perfectly happy to live with this contradiction, knowing it or not. Oh, nothing changes really, even at the purported end of the universe. The infrastructure had hardly begun construction before word got out that a new player was entering the fuel game. Ordinarily not such a problem. But when the core systems were critically low on most supplies, especially fuel, this announcement was like setting up an honor system bottled water market in the middle of a desert. Great profit opportunity, even greater insult to the sanctity of life by turning life or death matters into said profit opportunity. The state of the core was worse than any in the IEC had appreciated in recent cycles. While they had been gallivanting, the wars between the factions had resumed in full force. Blockades, bombings, rationing, and planets losing more and more habitable land. It was genuinely nearly over for most ordinary people, with not a great one in sight, but always in the back of your mind, of course. And it was this state of dismay that was going to prompt the real issue for merry entrepreneurs with good credit, sharp suits, and a 5-step business plan. This quest is entering the lofty leagues of multi-world politics now, and the IEC was about to learn how bad things really were up there